welcome to not the Andrew Marr Show. We've got a fantastic show today. We're going to discuss Jeremy Corbyn's new project, and we've got some great speakers who've volunteered to come onto the show. We've also got our newspaper review, which I'm just about to introduce our two newspaper reviewers. We have in Brighouse, John Dunn. Are you there, John?
I'm here, yes.
And what have you had for breakfast? It was fruit last week, meat the week before.
I read one of these motivational books this week, and it said that the great and the good always start off by having a drop of their own urine every morning. So I've just drunk a pint of yesterday's urine, so I'm feeling up for it today. Although the missus won't come anywhere near me.
Right, well, I shouldn't have asked you. I thought it would just be some really bland conversation, and it didn't turn out like that at all. It's great. Thank you for letting me know. And our other reviewer, Sonali, I don't suppose you've followed John's...
There's food for thought, that, John. Yeah, it's good to see you taking the end of the year so seriously, definitely. I had some oats. Sorry.
Well, that's what I was more expecting, but thank you for letting us know. Anyway, look, I'll get on with the first story, which is obvious to everyone. It's kind of everywhere. Boris Johnson has lost our Christmas. We have no Christmas now because of Boris Johnson's decision to put some areas into tier 4 and whatever. Do you think that Boris Johnson should resign, Sonali?
I think Boris Johnson should have resigned a long time ago. I mean, when do you resign? 60,000 people have died. You know, none of this should be a surprise. You know, actually, the death rate was in the hundreds. The death rate has been in the hundreds every day. And there's no outcry. It astonishes me. It's not surprising, this, and it had to happen. What's made things particularly painful for everyone is that the Tories pretended it didn't have to happen. So everybody got their hopes up and everyone made plans and, of course, bought a lot of stuff, which I think was also probably the idea. And then they've announced this towards the end of the last trading day in December, haven't they?
Yeah. And what do you think about this, John? Are you surprised by the government's incompetence?
I don't know whether it's incompetence or whether there's a plan behind it, whether it's this herd immunity, genocide upon our people right from start. I'm not one bit surprised that. I mean, I don't think Johnson knows who he is from one day to the next until he's looked in the mirror, but it's another way of covering up their ineptitude that all of a sudden we've got a super strain, which we haven't. It's been around for ages according to the World Health Organization, and the reality is we could all be having the sort of Christmas we like. We're an island. We could have killed this off right at the beginning, but now instead it's, you know, making policy on the hoof from day to day. And now he's invented another tier 4. And where does it end? Is it going to be like a Spinal Tap where we go up to tier 11 or even carry on beyond that? It would be so funny to make jokes about Boris Johnson's ineptitude, but it's tragic. You know, tens of thousands of our people have been murdered in a needless cull that could have been stopped right at the start. This so-called protecting the economy, what they actually mean is they're protecting their profits at our expense.
Well, I want to actually, because that's interesting that you said that, because it does work kind of with the next story that I saw in the Observer Business, was that 10 billionaires enjoy $400 billion boost during the pandemic. Is this something that Labour should be focusing on more, Sonali, that these people they've got to start paying for this, because other people are paying the price, aren't they?
Yes, Labour should absolutely be focusing on this more. Labour should be screaming wealth tax every opportunity that they get, and we should be screaming wealth tax, because when we talk about the public purse, so like for instance, a couple of weeks ago, the Tories announced they'd be spending 12 billion on defence. Like, none of us probably support that. That's a bizarre choice of sort of like allocation of public funds. But when you look at that compared to what these 10 individuals, the wealth that they have, is absolutely obscene. We need to have a wealth tax, absolutely. We need to talk about the absolutely disgusting level of wealth that some people have, and ask, how did they become so wealthy? Because we know that they didn't become wealthy from being good employers. You know, Bezos oversees Amazon, which has some of the poorest working conditions in the world, and that's everywhere that Amazon are. They're union busters, they are absolutely exploitative. They have staff who aren't even allowed to go to the toilet when they want. They don't have any breaks. They're not paid fairly. Now that's pure exploitation, and we need to be taxing these people through the ears. And
I'm going to move to a similar story, John. This one about big pharma firms. It's from the Morning Star that they're an obstacle to wiping out COVID-19. I mean, they must be rubbing their hands with this stuff.
It's amazing that they can dash out a vaccine in a few months, and yet for years they've never wanted to update antibiotics as things become more resistant to them. And the reason they've not done that is there's no profit. This is the biggest problem to the health of people throughout the world, that big pharma actually controls what drugs are available and what aren't. And one of the bravest things that was suggested in last year's election manifesto was that we'd start to manufacture our own drugs and undermine these people. And it gets me so angry that people's health depends on the profit of these organisations. I watched in the week the brilliant BBC documentary on how the Oxford virus vaccine came about, and the actual sacrifice of public employees in universities working every hour God sent to find out a cure for COVID, and then when they discover it, actually insisting it's rolled out at cost and that nobody makes any profit of it in the that, that's what we should have been doing. We've got labs in all these universities that could have been used to find a cure. And the biggest problem, I think, where I know it was a different world when the NHS was set up, the fact that we didn't nationalise drug companies and bring them under public ownership, and then we wouldn't have this. I mean, it's ridiculous that we've had all these companies competing to rush out a vaccine, where a simple matter of coordination might have found one months and months ago. And the sooner we get a socialist government that's committed to taking over these giant pharmaceuticals that don't just profit off us, they rape the world for raw materials and things like that. The sooner we can have a public-owned pharmaceutical industry, then we can really start talking about improving people's health.
Right, thank you. And this story as well, Sonali, about the teachers being kind of expected to help with testing in the new year.
Yeah, I'm going to very quickly though. Can I just follow on from John's point? I just want to point out, if people didn't know, that last week Britain and other Western countries blocked the global South from being able to develop a generic version of the vaccine that would have saved hundreds and thousands of lives. And now a lot of people in the global South are going to die because of our extension of colonial greed, essentially. Yes, this plan. So could teachers be be treated any worse by this government. I have a school-age child. Last week, I live in an area where the R rate was going through the roof. Our council made the decision that schools should be closed in order to protect public health. Within a day or two, Nick Gibb and the Education Department were threatening Greenwich Council, threatening to sue them. They were writing to head teachers on an individual basis, threatening them and intimidating them. And so our daughter's school reopened again for the final 2 days for no reason whatsoever. And then on Saturday, we're in tier 4. Meanwhile, those teachers who have been trying their absolute best to look after our kids, but also to look after public health in our community, are now being told, first of all, they've got to prepare online learning for January. So they're not going to have much of a holiday, are they? And now they've got to apparently oversee mass testing in schools as well. And also being told that they're going to have volunteers going in who won't be DBS checked. I mean, I don't know how you could treat teachers any worse, but all that guff from the government about key workers being the backbone of our society is just an absolute joke, isn't it, really? Yeah, this isn't, it seems unworkable to me, what they're proposing.
Yeah, it's almost like you just know that it's the next one that they'll have to change their tack on, and it's so obviously not going to be workable. John, are you a train user?
I'm not a great public transport user. I'm one of these people. I'm a bit of a petrol head, if that doesn't offend any environmentalists. I love to drive, or I did before the roads were full of potholes and that. But when I have used trains,
what I was going to ask you, John, is if you go on the train, do you expect to get a coffee or a tea or something like that?
Well, it's funny that they've talked about the end of catering. One of the reasons for the privatisation that was lauded loud at the time when they privatised the railways was that they wouldn't sold somebody a stale sandwich. And now private companies can't even provide a little bit of food. If you're on a long journey and you've not had a chance to pack a few sandwiches and things like that, it's not the best of catering, but, I'm a bit of a coffee head. I like a nice cup of coffee if I can. And the fact that they can't, private enterprise can't even give you a sandwich and a cup of coffee sums up, the total uselessness, one, of privatisation, and two, of privatised companies generally. And last year I had the great fortune to spend some time in China, and I travelled on their railway network. They've got cleaners, they've got guards, they've got customer care officers, and a full catering service with hot meals walking up and down the train each time. And here in Britain, you're lucky on the trains up here in the north, you wouldn't be able to eat a sandwich because you've not got room to move your arms usually because you're crammed in so much. But yeah, it epitomises private enterprise.
Now I'm going to move on because we're getting, it's time. I'm aware of the time. There's a letter in the Morning Star, open letter, stand up for the Labour Party democracy, and it's calling on the Labour leadership to reinstate the whip, Jeremy Corbyn, end the attacks on party democracy, legitimate discussion and recent waves of decisions, and instead focus on taking the fight to the Tories. That's got quite a number of people to sign up for it. So obviously that's quite a big statement, but it's only in the Morning Star. I haven't seen it in the Observer, and I haven't seen it in the Sunday Mirror either. So I wanted to ask both of you what you feel about the state of the party at the moment. Sonali.
It's appalling, isn't it? We have some people on this call who are extremely dedicated, hard-working members of the Labour Party who have been suspended for calling for Jeremy Corbyn to have the whip reinstated, and for trying to have freedom of discussion within their CLPs. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous, really, isn't it? And I think that I mean, you know, Momentum have been really clear about this from the start, that we see this as an attack not on Jeremy Corbyn, not just on Jeremy Corbyn, but as an attack on our movement, and as an attempt to erase the past 5 years and erase the policy progress that we've made in the last 5 years. We've tried to erase the absolutely crucial conversations that we're starting to have about public ownership and about redistribution of wealth and about a green industrial revolution, things that have only become more urgent, let's face it. It's an attempt to undermine that, and this, I'm afraid, is an ideological battle. And the Labour Party has always been an ideological battleground, but it's extremely stark at the moment, because really they are trying to obliterate you know, at the beginnings of a movement, because we really do threaten the status quo. But you know, what we're saying is really urgent and needs to be heard. And so Momentum will certainly do. Momentum have released details. I think Alan might have spoken about it last week on your show, Crispin, that we'll be supporting suspenders members. We have like a legal support, and we'll continue to just do whatever we can, because this is, you know, we're in dangerous times and we can't afford to have these factional attacks right now.
Well, I mean, I'm aware I'm sort of a bit over time, but I wanted to quickly bring this story in as well. It's just a letter to the Morning Star, and I wondered what you thought about it. John, it says that this letter says, we're happy for the Morning Star. We'll share stories from the Morning Star, but nothing that promotes Labour under Keir Starmer. I mean, is that the problem that will happen if this carries on, that people won't actually support Labour and start to ignore Labour because of what's happened?
I think so. I think in many parts of the north, Labour's already a toxic brand, but now with what's happening, and it's not just the attacks on the left. I've never ever known anybody as inept and so uncomfortable in the position he holds as Keir Starmer. Every photo opportunity looks like he's modelling for a waxwork in Madame Tussauds. We shouldn't share anything that legitimises these people. And even when on the odd occasion they get something right, because that's just the lower averages kicking in, we shouldn't see this as a sign that things are changing. This is an all-out war, and we've got to fight back with every means as possible. They're suspending us, they're closing down CLPs to shut us up. So we've got to do the same to them. We'll not stop them being so cosy with the mass media, but every avenue we've got to use to expose the charlatans. You know, Starmer should be locked up and arrested for impersonating a Labour Party leader. It's disgusting I mean, I've been suspended. I don't know why, because I'm a peace-loving, ordinary type, keep my head down sort of guy. But when this is all over, when COVID's gone, we've got to get our revenge. We've got to be in the regional offices, in head office, occupying them and throwing these money lenders out of the temple.
Right, okay, all right. Thanks, John. I know you could carry on. I haven't got much time because I've got to move on. But do you find it difficult to share positive stories about Labour now that what's going on? With what's going on?
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Positive stories. If I came across one, I'd maybe have a think about it. You know what, Crispin? I think we need to be clear that there's still good socialists in the party, in Parliament, and I absolutely support the good socialists who we know are being isolated. So I think Zara Sultana is still doing a brilliant job. I think Bel Ribera Addy is still doing a brilliant job. Dan Carden is doing a fantastic job, and I support people who are going to pursue an ideological project that supports the working class. So if MPs are doing that, I will support them. And if people, you know, so I'll share stuff by those people, but I have yet to see anything coming from the leadership that you know, that aligns with that ideology. At the moment, it feels like a lot of abstention, a lot of cowardice, and I'm afraid in recent days, a whole lot of racism, which is really scary. It's really scary for a lot of people in this country right now. Yeah,
well, thank you both for coming on to the show and going quickly through the stories. I really appreciate your contributions. Now we're going to discuss the Peace and Justice project, which was announced by Jeremy Corbyn last week. I'm just going to show his...
Today, I'm announcing a new project for the new year. I'm very excited about it, and I hope you will be too. Next month, we're kicking off the Peace and Justice project. We're going to bring people together. It's been a difficult year for all of us. The coronavirus pandemic has exposed and deepened the scale of injustice and inequality in our society. Its mishandling and devastating human consequences have shown the inability of our privatised, hollowed-out systems to meet the challenges of our time. The Black Lives Matter movement has fuelled a global response to the scourge of racism. Wildfires across Australia, Russia, and the United States have driven home the fact that none of us are safe from the climate crisis. Injustices and threats at home and abroad cannot be separated. What's happened this year has shown us how connected we all are. We need solidarity beyond our borders and across communities to solve our common problems together. The Peace and Justice project is there to create space, hope, and opportunity. In January, I'll be able to say more when we have our launch event. I'll be joined by some fantastic campaigners. That means you. Before we go, sign up to our launch event now. The information is just about to come on the screen. We're going to build something important together. This year, many of us have felt powerless in the face of forces beyond our control. It does not have to be like that. Things can, and they will, change.
Right, now we have with us on the call one of the people who will be on that launch party, that launch event, and she's kindly come on and she's got to go off soon, so I better get on quickly. Crispin, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Crispin, despite the fact that I'm in tier 4. I'm actually very fit and very excited about this new project. And let me, before I go on, apologise to Jenny Bourne, because she put in the chat, when is Jeremy on? Well, you haven't got Jeremy this morning, you've got me talking about the project that I'm delighted to be involved with Jeremy.
And can you tell us your role in the project as well?
Yeah, it's been constituted, you know, in a proper and legal fashion. So Jeremy and I are the two directors of this project. And just so people understand this, when it was clear that Jeremy was no longer going to be leader of the Labour Party, so we're talking about months ago, way back at the beginning of this awful year that feels like it's gone on for a decade, Jeremy began thinking about a project that we could all be involved in. And so this is, you know, in-depth discussions have been going on through January, February, and then during the lockdown and so on. And now we got to the stage where we can announce something, and in January we will have the absolute launch of it. And, you know, Jeremy's own words say what it's going to be. It's going to be not a new party, but a space where we can bring people together to network, to think about and address the huge problems that we're all facing. And I'm really excited about it. And you know, I could review all of the things that John and Sonali have just been saying, but The thing about this project is that it's a really hopeful project and it's forward looking, and we absolutely need to get behind it.
The globalism of it is very interesting, because the pandemic has obviously been global. And I was thinking that, you know, a lot of people are becoming kind of nationalistic or even more parochial and thinking about their local area. I mean, we're all fighting for our tier, but
yeah.
This is a vision of everyone across the world collaborating, which goes against that that trend in a sense. Is that really important?
Yeah.
I think as it seems to me, xenophobia and nationalism are going to become quite prevalent as we move on after the pandemic starts to hit.
Well, as you know, as Jeremy said in that clip you showed, we already knew there were hideous levels of inequality and injustice in our own society, let alone globally. And the pandemic, you know, has shown that. It's exacerbated it, it's made it much worse, but it's also put it in front of people's faces. All that issue about how much money billionaires have made out of it and so on. So yeah, absolutely. Global solidarity is really critical and central to the idea of this project. And the fact is, everybody knows Jeremy's always been an internationalist. Those of us who've worked hard throughout our whole political life in the trade union movement, absolutely we're internationalists, because trade union rights are human rights. Those are the things that Jeremy agrees with. So we absolutely want to be working with trade unions. We want to activate ordinary, I say ordinary in that kind of way, but, you know, trade unionists who don't do anything else maybe want to think about being active in their own union, but also being active in this project. I think there is real scope. I mean, you know, as Ian Lavery always says, they don't call it the struggle for nothing. We're right in the middle of the struggle in the Labour Party, but we also have to be in the middle of the struggle in the project for peace and justice.
Yeah, and I put a survey out to nearly 1,000 people replied to the survey, and 75% of them had signed up for the launch. So it seems to me that there's a definite desire to get involved in such a new adventure. I think people may well be a bit disillusioned with the Labour Party's response to the pandemic. And also, I think maybe that Keir Starmer's nationalism, that he kind of not, well, I don't know if nationalism, patriotism he wants to call it, hasn't gone down particularly well with a lot of members. So it does seem to come in at the right time. But the main thing is, what do we need to do to build up the project? I mean, do you know how many people have signed up? Have you got any idea what the...
Well, it's thousands. I mean, it was 11,000 the last time I checked to come to the launch event, but people have already signed up to donate money to the project to get it going. And it's had millions, literally millions of likes on social media. Now, of course, that's easy to do. You know, anyone can click to like something. And we have to absolutely move beyond that and get people involved. But the other thing that's really important to say, Crispin, is that this is not about supplanting. It's not about supplanting any existing campaigns, because there's lots of really good campaigns and really good campaigners. This is about networking and making sure that we can kind of amplify everybody's energy so that we make more of an impact with everything that we do. So sign up to come to the launch meeting. Sonali mentioned Zara Sultana being a really good MP in Parliament. And incidentally, I saw her message yesterday on Instagram that says, you know, the Daily Mail calls me the angry MP, and she lists a whole load of things. And then she concludes, you know, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And what we want to do is channel that kind of feeling into this project. So come to the launch meeting. Zara will be on the platform. Look at the website. There will be more videos launched as we go along, building up towards the launch on January the 17th. We've got lots and lots of people who would be really enthusiastic. And I have to say, we've heard this morning of the death of Leo Panich, who would, under other circumstances, have been writing a blog for this very project. So, you know, we offer condolences to his family and friends and comrades. But, you know, as we lose Leo, there'll be other people who will come in to be really active and enthusiastic.
Well, look, I know you've got to shoot off for another Zoom somewhere or something, but we've got a dozen people from across the country who are excited about the project and want to speak about it. So if you miss it, I'll put it out on YouTube and you can hear what their visions are for the project. And thank you very much for coming on.
It's great. It's great. So there you are. Yeah. Hope springs eternal. Listen, I'm just going to say this to you, that Martin Luther King said something very profound once. He said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And then a woman, an American woman who was Attorney General in the States, said, it's right about what he says, but it doesn't get there on its own. So we are the people who have to bend that towards social justice, equality and fairness. And that's what the project will be about. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm going to speak to our first person who has said they would speak about the project is Libby in Brighton. Are you there, Libby?
Hi.
Hi, Libby.
Hi, Crispin. Hi.
So, tell me what enthuses you about the project, and what's your journey been to now to get you to where you are in the party and in the movement?
Wow. Oh my goodness, that's quite a lot.
Well, you do it in about 2 minutes.
Well, I've got so much to say about the project that I'm not sure that my journey should come into it. But obviously, I mean, I just wanted to start by talking about the words, because peace and justice, social justice and human rights, they're all words that are quite popular and fashionable that we can bandy around. But actually, those words are very, very powerful and meaningful to me and to all socialists. Peace basically means that we are anti-war, and the wars that have gone on in our lifetimes, even though we weren't alive in the biggest war, the Second World War, the wars that have gone on are absolutely tragic, unnecessary, heartbreaking, and have caused millions of deaths. So to me, a campaign for peace is the ultimate. It's what we should all be supporting. But it's not just a word we should just say, oh yeah, I'm for peace. It's something we have to campaign for, we have to work for, because there are massive powers that are working for war. All those companies that are making the bombs that kill people, that maim children, that blow off their arms and legs, that leave millions of children orphans because they destroy and kill their parents. So to me, it's fantastic that Jeremy's launching a campaign that includes campaigning for peace, as he has done all his life. And also for social justice, obviously, to stop the poverty that we're seeing now, that shamefully a footballer is doing more to stop than the leader of the Labour Party. So I'm very much in support of the campaign for social justice, and obviously for human rights, which again, shamefully, the leader of the Labour Party has supported the Tory Spy Cops bill, which allows women like me, an activist, to be raped by somebody because they work for the state. And so I'm very much in support of all the campaigns that Jeremy is supporting in this thing. But obviously there's more than that. It is the internationalism that you spoke of earlier, and socialists need to really get on top of this, because I tell you who is internationalist. It's the capitalists. They are internationalists. They work together. We've got an Australian who owns most of our media. Yeah, they're not nationalists. They'll work with anyone across the globe to help them get their next billion. And socialists have to be internationalists to counter this. But also, with this internationalism comes an education where we can learn. We can learn from the Latin American socialists who are fighting against the oppressive coups they've suffered. We can learn from them as well as support them and give them solidarity. And also, it's going to bring back unity to the left. It's something we can all get behind, whether it's the young people who've been inspired by Black Lives Matter and the environmental campaigns, or whether it's older people like us who were involved in the peace campaigns of the 70s, etc. It is a campaign, and you know, for me personally, campaigning is what I do. I love campaigning, so it's great to have something to get behind. And finally, I just want to say one last thing, right? That this, I hope, and I really do believe this, that this will restore the legacy of Corbynism as something massively positive and something that for me has certainly helped restore my hope, which has been dashed over the last sort of 10 months. So this really, for me, means hope.
Oh, thank you, Libby. That was a great intro. Now I'm going to move to Neil in Shipley. Are you there, Neil?
Yeah. Hi, Crispin.
Now, Neil, I heard that you've been suspended in the last couple of days.
Yeah. I'm a branch chair and sorry.
But I also saw that you're a big supporter of the project. So how do you see the project fitting in to your activities now that obviously being suspended and stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose one of the things I was sort of feeling was that I'm not sure, how much of my time I want to spend fighting my suspension. I think I'll go through the process and see what happens. But one of the things that made me sort of sign up to the campaign, on the day, I know it's not the official launch, but the day it first started, and sign up for a few quid and a month and put my Twibbon celebrating the campaign on my Facebook profile, was that I suppose, like many, I'm 60 years old. I've been a lifelong Labour voter, but joined the party, in 2016, few months after Corbyn became leader, because of that hope. And I guess my absolute priorities were domestic, things around like housing and a just welfare benefit system, things like that. But one of the things I found exciting about the chance of a Corbyn-led government was I thought that it was international, and that this could have, global implications if we got a radical Labour government elected. Obviously, those hopes were horribly dashed, and right now we've got a Labour leadership elected a few months ago on promise of unity, which during a time of a grave public health and social and economic crisis has chosen to declare war on the left of the party. And I think it is a choice. I think it is an ideological battle. But this campaign gives us an opportunity, I think, to be positive, to be outward looking, to link up all the other stuff that's going on. And but it's got global, significance. And I think Libby's point about capitalists, they work together internationally. We need to start doing that to develop this counter narrative that we, a better world is there for us to grab. And it's been far too long coming.
Well, thank you for coming on, Neil. And I'm sorry to hear about what your suspension, but I feel this is a positive thing to look forward to in the new year. And it's been quite a depressing time as a Labour member, but I think we can all anticipate something good coming forward. I'm going to move to Melanie now. Melanie, are you there?
I'm here. Hiya.
Oh, I've got the wrong Melanie. Which one?
I've got two Melanies.
Two Melanies. Well, I was looking for Melanie. This Melvin.
That's me.
Hi, Melanie. How are you doing? And could Could you tell us, you wanted to speak about the project?
Yes. I just wanted to say, I mean, you asked why we're excited. I found my whole family was excited by the Corbyn movement. My 2 teenagers, we were all out on the streets campaigning in 2017, 2019. And this sort of flame of hope and justice was burning bright. And it kind of has been quenched for the last little while, especially since Starmer's taken over. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he might stick by his pledges, but I think it's become obvious over the past month or two that he's not going to stick to those pledges, and I've lost hope. And one of my teenager, actually my 18-year-old, came downstairs last weekend and said to me, "Starmer's no good, is he?" And I think young people are really realising that the Labour Party is not for them. They're turning away from the Labour Party. So for me and my family, hearing about this fantastic new project has really given hope to us, to all of us. I think we desperately need a safe space for socialists. I was in the party, I was purged in 2017 when I became Women's Officer for Kent Town and was trawled and threatened, abused, etc. And I think, I know comrades of mine who were attacked on the street during the last election. I think we really desperately need a safe place for socialists and socialism. And I think it's a space headed by such great people. I mean, if I'd asked, who do you want to have leading a new movement, it would be Corbyn, Zara Sultana, Len McCluskey, Yanis Varoufakis, all these amazing people. So it's a dream come true for me, the kind of people in charge of it. And I want a space for me and for my children where we can be unashamedly radical, where we don't have to be ashamed of even speaking the word socialism, where we can unapologetically campaign against war. And I think that's a desperately needed space at the moment for everybody. In the context of purging socialists, I think what we need to learn from what happened last time is I think we need to really walk the talk on solidarity, not just for other movements and other oppressed minorities, but for the oppressed minority that is socialists. And I think every individual, we should stand by every single individual who's been attacked by the party machine and really focus on that principle of innocent until proven guilty. So I think that's really important.
I'm just aware that I have to move on, but
yeah, sure, but I'm just excited about harnessing this power of the Corbyn movement. So, oh, Jeremy Corbyn, I want to be shouting that again soon.
Well, thank you, Melanie. I'm going to move to Kay. Are you there, Kay?
Yes, I'm here.
Now you wanted to speak as well. You've signed up for the project.
Yes. I hope that's okay. I'm going to talk about how I see the project, or how I hope it will be in my particular context, if that's okay, Crispin.
Sure. Yeah.
And even though I don't know exactly what it'll involve yet, I'm excited, just like other speakers, by the idea of a project that just might focus on what we care about, that is improving the lot of human beings. Peace and justice sounds like a broad agenda. Of course it does, but it just might tackle the issues that I am passionate about. It might be creative, ambitious, it might tackle the obstacles that hold so many people back. I'm from Northern Ireland originally, so that word peace has a peculiarly powerful resonance for me. Northern Ireland has relative peace, which is better than none. People are still being kneecapped and intimidated. Terrorists are still active. On the mainland, we don't hear about that, and that's deliberate. Maybe that's how it should be. Northern Ireland, incidentally, still cannot stand Labour candidates, and with hundreds of Labour Party members, I think that's a disgrace, and we're going to keep fighting for that. Bringing people together, as Jeremy said, is certainly ambitious. Incidentally, I'm going back to something someone else said earlier. I'm not a nationalist, I'm an internationalist, and I'm a member of the Labour Party, so therefore I am an internationalist. I live in Essex now, Harlow actually. I worked and lived in Fife before I came down here, Fife in Scotland, where I was a trade union activist a further education lecturer and a counsellor. And I know what a difference we can make for the better to people's lives. Yes, I know that far more people are unemployed now and are desperately struggling to pay the bills, but that so many people, so many families, children were going under before the pandemic hit was a scandalous reality. The UK is the 5th or possibly 6th richest country in the world. So why the surge in food bank use before COVID-19? Poverty in the UK is systematic and tragic, according to Professor Alston, whose report commissioned by the UN draws shocking findings, and we should be shocked, we should be angry. The report says the UK's social safety net has been deliberately removed and replaced with a harsh and uncaring ethos. That ideological cuts to public services have led to tragic consequences. People have to choose between heating their homes and eating, between feeding their children and themselves. Homelessness has increased, food banks have increased, and suicides too. In-work poverty hits around 3 million, at least 3 million children. This isn't a Dickens novel, though it feels like one. But these are the realities for people in our country right now. We know that the pandemic has exacerbated all of this. We know that the vulnerable, that those already struggling to survive, already living on the edge, are the ones being hammered by government cuts and laid low by the effect of the pandemic. What sort of country are we? Are we proud of what's happened to our people? Are we prepared to do something? Justice has to mean really levelling up, not just talking about it grandly in a blustery way. It has to mean getting rid of universal credit, 0 hours contracts, appalling living conditions, children without food or hope. It must mean decent pay, decent housing, decent jobs and conditions, a decent country that treats people with respect and decency. I really hope that Jeremy's Peace and Justice project has at least some of those objectives. People really need hope now, but we can do this. I know it's hard it is easy rather to lose hope given everything that's happened to our party, but we can do it. In Fife, where I lived before, Labour proved that by relentlessly introducing early intervention, supportive measures to families and early years, sustained creative ideas designed with humanity and empathy, we can raise attainment for every child, we can close the attainment gap, we can help people to realise a better future. Right. Fife has been building, I'm almost finished, Crispin. Fife has been building thousands of homes, social homes, working with housing associations since 2012, thousands of them. Justice has to mean social justice for all. It has to. We can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Kay. Now, I'm asking other people if they contribute. Could they try and keep it a couple of minutes?
It's hard.
It's all right, Kay. It's all right. Well, it's tough to do it. I know. John, are you there? John Pinkerton?
Yeah. I'm here.
Now, you wanted to speak as well about have you signed up for the launch?
Yeah, definitely. I'd just like to say you asked us about a bit of our history, about how we got to where we are. Well, I joined the Labour Party in 1997 on the sort of Blair wave, you know, and not long after I joined it, I got a questionnaire from the local Labour Party asking me why I joined the Labour Party. My answer was pretty straightforward. It's in the current situation, it appeared to me to be the best organisation to move Britain towards socialism. Now, we know that this thing moves forward and back. At the moment, there's a great deal of despair amongst the Labour Party members, and you can see people are leaving by the thousands. But this project, the Peace and Justice project, has come along just at the right time, particularly before Christmas, when people could get into even more despair. And I think that this is so important that it stops people dropping out, not necessarily the Labour Party, but out of the struggle for change in our society. This is really important people can go into periods of despair and drop out completely. We cannot afford to lose these people. These are thousands and thousands of good, decent people. I want to come on to the question of peace now. I think one of the biggest issues that are facing us at the moment is the danger of the Cold War with China, particularly, and also with Russia, of developing into what could be a hot war. China has got a development of socialism that is planned for the next 200 years. How can that be upset? War is the one way that could upset any socialist project in the world, and we've seen that in a number of the countries that have tried to move towards socialism. I think we have to learn from the past. The question of linking peace and justice is important. You cannot have peace without justice. And I'll make one final point if I could. We've got a Labour Party, but there's no reason to actually say that the Labour Party doesn't necessarily continue in its present form. It doesn't have to. It can be a historical fact in one period and disappear in another. But the trade union movement will always be here, whatever society we're living under, capitalism or socialism. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm moving to Lucy. Are you there? Are you there, Lucy, in Norwich?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
I'll give you 2 minutes. Is that fine?
That's fine. Yes. I was aware of Jeremy Corbyn in the 80s. I lived in London for a long time. And I moved to Norwich a long time ago. But I was aware of him in the 80s, and I was aware of him as a radical figure then. And I became very despairing of the Labour Party during that time, and withdrew my membership. When he threw his hat in the ring, I was terribly excited, and he came to Norwich and spoke here, and there were, like everywhere, a huge crowd. And he said everything that I've been thinking about for years and thinking we need. And when we lost this election just gone, I felt I wasn't surprised. I was shocked, but not surprised, because I think the forces against socialism in this country, not amongst the populace, but in the establishment, are very, very powerful. And what's remarkable to me about him and his people like John McDonnell and some of the current, some of the MPs in Parliament, is that they're not cowed. They're continuing. They're fighting on, and I think this initiative is exciting because it's an expression of not being cowed, of saying yes, we have to struggle on. And I find that inspirational, and I've been wondering about how to engage myself, and I'm hoping that it will be an opportunity. And I'm very struck by Jeremy Corbyn saying, as he showed in that in what he just said on that clip, that it's not a diktat from above. It's wanting people to be actively engaged on the ground, and I think that's the only way forward. I think from that point of view, it's exciting. I think the international aspect is exciting, and what's happening in Central America, I think, points to that. I don't know whether I'm right, but this Venezuelan election that's just occurred hasn't been mentioned in the mainstream news. I don't know if I'm right about that, but that's an example. And the election result in, is it Bolivia, that was just a landslide for socialists. You'd never know it. And you'd never know that Jeremy Corbyn, I think he's won peace prizes 3 times in the last couple of years. You'd never know it. And you'd never know that he's been fighting for peace and against racism, according to the mainstream media. You'd never know it, but they're afraid of it. And I hold the right wing of the Parliamentary Labour Party responsible very much for what has happened, and we need to not be cowed by them. So I'm very excited by this project and hope that I can engage with it in a way that I'm able to, because I have been feeling, what can I do? I don't know what to do.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. And very short as well. Thank you. Phil, are you there, Phil?
Yes.
And you wanted to speak. Is 2 minutes okay for you?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I was really excited by the launch, well, the proposed launch of the Peace and Social Justice, you know, Jeremy's development, because the worry for me was that Jeremy answered a need that was there, in a sense that people knew that the system, the capitalist system, doesn't provide answers, it doesn't provide decent education, it burdens the young with enormous debt, it doesn't provide housing, you know, it doesn't provide decent work, it's 0 hours contracts. And Jeremy managed to speak to that, and there was an enormous kind of need to address those issues. And I'm hoping that, you know, the new initiative will bring together all those people again, and those groups that are there on the ground. I mean, really, there are lots of groups on the ground, like Black Lives Matter in America in particular, where it's broadened out. You know, it was against police violence and the ghettoization of Black communities by the police, and now it's become much more of a political movement that's seeking to change, you know, the root and branch. And I think that internationalism that the Peace and Justice Project can draw upon, and the energy, it's a kind of political ecology, isn't it? We talk about, you know, recycling energy and bringing, I think this is like a political kind of ecology project, that we don't want to waste the energy that is there, because people are desperate for a solution to the problems.
We've got all the energy, and we had that spirit from 2015, 2016, 2017. All, you know, we're all really enthused, and it feels like that energy has got to go somewhere. And I think if we can build this project up in the same way as we built up the campaign behind Jeremy when he was standing for leader and when he was leader, then it could be massive and have, like you say, the Black Lives Matter is an international movement, and spreading international links is, and as Libby was saying, you know, we can learn from other people in other countries about how their campaigning works, and pick up from there, because the system's so difficult to combat. I'm going to move on now, so I didn't mean to eat into your 2 minutes. I'm going to move to Graham in North London. Are you there, Graham?
I am. Good morning, Crispin.
Oh, have you not got a camera?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see you. I can't see your camera, but anyway, do you want to tell us what your reason was for joining the project?
Yeah, sure. Morning to you, Crispin. And I've been a member of the Labour Party for 50 years this year, and I got a letter this week from David Evans, who kindly wrote to me and said, "Members like you, Graham, are our greatest strength," which I thought was really nice. Unfortunately, he hasn't replied to all the letters I've sent to him about my suspension. So I'm hoping this is the beginning of a new relationship with David Evans, and all the suspended members now get our letters back, because you can be part of a wave of suspensions. The current wave of CLP officers is having a rough time, but I go back to the wave that objected to the Board of Deputies 10 points that Richard Berg and others refused to sign up to. And apparently when I stood for the NEC...
I mean, I don't want to, I'm not censoring it, it's just I'm kind of trying to get into the project.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. I wanted to raise that point because I wanted to raise the solidarity with suspended members, because a lot of people are leaving the Labour Party, I am told, and I'd like to appeal to them not to, and to fight on. And yes, I am the 538 Graham Dunn. Morning, John. I would like to say about the project that when a lot of young members joined from 2016 onwards, they couldn't understand why Jeremy was so unpopular, why he was being attacked in the media so much, viciously attacked. And my theory has always been, it's because of his internationalism. It's because they fear somebody as a leader of a nation speaking out against Saudi brutality or any brutality or US imperialism around the world. That could never be acceptable. And so I think it's great that Jeremy has launched this particular project, which focuses on internationalism and seeks to build that. On the other hand, and I know it's enthused a lot of people and we'll all be at the launch. On the other hand, talking about these issues is not just going to be enough, is it? We have to stay organised in our unions and in the Labour Party, trying to fight back against the takeover. We are a majority of our party, and that's why I'm trying to link the two things. I'm enthused about the project. I think it'll be a great discussion forum, but we also need to stay organised and continue to fight for positions. It's not their party, it's our party, built by people who fought in the unions and the Labour Party. That's what I just wanted to link the two things together. The other point worth discussing in the future is, if it's going to be a big project and it's going to be international, it needs to be run democratically, based on membership controlling it. We've had too many organisations over many years which have never been democratic. You know, Momentum was one of them, you know, the Respect and so on and so forth. All these groups that become dominated by individuals with agendas, we need to have an open democratic forum in which everybody has a say. We need to get away a little bit after the launch from 5 or 6 platform speakers telling you what you want to hear and then walking away, which has been a bit of a pattern in recent years. We need to have a much more involvement. Thank you.
Well, a bit like this show where everyone gets to have a...
Exactly, Crispin.
Okay, I'll move on to Kevin in Plymouth. You there, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Crispin?
No, you've only got 1.5 minutes because
I've set my stopwatch. Right, I'm going to get going. Listen, I want to talk about the project and exactly what you want us to talk about. For me, I feel like a child anticipating Christmas. I know the presents have been bought. I can see the wrapping paper, and I'm just waiting for that magical day when I can rip it off and see what's inside it. And I've got a lot of hopes about what's inside it, Crispin, and I hope people can bear with me on that. I mean, you asked me to write something to you yesterday, and I did. I wrote to Crispin, everyone, and told him quite a lot about me, far more than I tell most people. And it reminded me, very cathartic, it reminded me of some of the things that I think are wrong with Labour, as well as, you know, there are good things with Labour too. You know, I'm a Labour Party member. When I first joined the Labour Party, it was in the 1980s, and I'd been a member of a long defunct organisation now called the Liberal Party. When I joined locally, my CLP tried to block my membership. And interestingly, it was the left who organised to get me admitted against the right. And as I said to Crispin, who'd have predicted that then? We're looking at, you know, peace and justice, an internationalist movement, but I think internationalism isn't top down, it's end to end. And as I mentioned to Crispin, my next funny experience with the party is when I wanted to organise where I was working within the party to win seats in the run up to 97, and they wouldn't have any of it because they only wanted the target seat. But we ignored them, and actually we won 5 out of 7 seats in the area I worked, which is now, you know, the Socialist Republic of North Kent. So think about that. That's what happens when we work on the ground. So I'm hoping that what we're going to get out of this process is, yes, internationalism, but also campaigning everywhere. There shouldn't be no-go areas for socialism and socialists. So that's, you know, that's what I hope to see, Crispin. I've used me 2 minutes now, so I'll stop now. But thank you for the platform. And my appeal to people is kind of get involved everywhere. Don't think you live in a sleepy shire where it doesn't matter. It always matters. You know, it's trade unionism, socialism, organise everywhere. Thanks, Crispin.
Thank you, Kevin. Right, we're running over time, but I'd really like to speak to our last speaker, Louise Regan. Are you there, Louise?
I'm here. Hi, Crispin. How are you?
I'm good. Now we know obviously that you were suspended recently. How does that affect your enthusiasm for the project? Does it have any bearing? Do you feel more focused on? Do you want to move into something that isn't like maybe Labour Party so much?
I mean, it doesn't really impact on my enthusiasm, or or if I wasn't enthusiastic for it. I haven't really thought about it in that way. I mean, I just like, I mean, peace and justice are terms I use all the time, and people have talked about that, and they are very bandied around, but they're a core principle for me in terms of how I live my life. So therefore, to have a project that has two of my core principles at its heart has got to be a positive thing. I'm a teacher, for people that don't know that, and I've seen the massive impact of COVID in our communities, the child poverty issue, which has already been raised. I mean, UNICEF are feeding our children now. I mean, how we're not hanging our heads in shame, and I don't know. The whole debacle with free school meals and the way that educators have been demonized actually in the press, I think is quite shameful. So for me, you can get bogged down in all of that sort of negativity, and it's much better if we focus, I think, on more positive things. I think people have talked about the Black Lives Matter movement, and there was a massive involvement of young people in that movement. That shows us that our young people understand injustice and inequality, and we have to find ways to engage them in things to talk about those issues, which doesn't happen enough in education settings at the moment, unfortunately. And for me, solidarity beyond our borders and across communities is absolutely at the heart of what we need to be doing right at this moment. We cannot change. I don't believe we can change the world without international solidarity. I think we have to work internationally to change the world that we live in currently. We lack the wealth. As here, we lack the wealth of those who control the world, but what we do have is the numbers. There are many, many more of us to fight back against what is happening. And I'll just end with this, because I know we're really short on time. I'm a trade unionist through and through. I'm sure, like many on this, I'm looking around and can see many, many other fantastic trade unionists on this call. Bob Crow said something which I think we should all remember. If you fight, you won't always win. But if you don't fight, you will always lose. So we have to keep on fighting. It's an ongoing battle, but we cannot win if we don't fight. And for me, this gives me a sense of hope, a positive, something that we can work together on to try and change our world. And that's a positive thing for ending 2020 with.
That's great. Yeah, I feel the same. 2021 will be better when we get into something that we can all work together on. It's not been a great year. I think Jeremy's done exactly the right thing to give us a platform that we can all move into and focus on. So thank you very much for coming on, Louise, and everyone else who's contributed. I tried to get as many people in as possible. Some people didn't come onto the call, but and I tried to get it down to 2 minutes, but I'm not very good at butting in when someone's reading out a speech. So maybe I have to work on that a bit more. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes. Hello.
How are you doing?
Right. Yeah, I found a barber's with no one in it, so I just popped in.
Oh, well done. Good move. Now, have you written a song for today?
I have, yes. It's called "If We Don't Get Any Justice, There Won't Be Any Peace." So
that's a good anthem.
Well, let's have a go anyway, shall we? Institutional gateways, access by birth. We got a fistful of billionaires costing us the earth. Bless it with a lawyer, a prison and a priest. If we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. Oh, the merry-go-lucky and the happy-go-round. Keep the upside outwards and the inside down. But underneath the bonnet, the poison, oil and the grease. And if we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. Ruling values, surplus class, tinted labels and designer glass. Underneath the tablecloth, the famine and the feast. And if we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. Got the neatly spoken and the nicely planned, got the idle money and the laundered hands, but underneath your suntan, the riot police. So if we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. If we don't get any justice, if we don't get any justice, we're all statistically unlikely. Blah, 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 we're all accidents and miracles, but here we are, all anti-clockwise, from the west to the east. And if we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. If we don't get any justice, there won't be any peace. If we don't get any justice, then there won't be any peace.
Whoops. I can't believe you're live. I can't believe it's live. I can't believe you did that live. It's amazing. I always imagine it being a recording, and no, it's live. It's totally unbelievable. Now look, I'm aware that there's not long till we have a Zoom at 12 o'clock. There's a Zoom about Save Our Socialists. I think the link has been put in the chat if you want to hop on to that Zoom. But before we go, Rob, sorry it's so late. I should have, but thanks a lot, Rob. That was a fantastic song. Do you know what that one reminded me of?
Go on.
Well, you won't like it, probably.
Go on.
It had a swing, like Dire Straits-ish.
I don't mind a bit of Dire Straits before they became mega famous.
Just it was the way the chorus went. I don't know why. I can imagine that guy singing it. Now, what we've got today is we have a member who wanted to sing the Red Flag instead of you, Rob. I mean, I prefer your version. I mean, normally I would, but we'll have to see what his one's like. And Mark, who is often co-host, he isn't today for some reason. We didn't manage to get him to be co-host. Maybe that's because I didn't want to hear him before the finale. Mark is going to lead us out with the Red Flag. Are you there, Mark? I can't hear you. Not a good start. Right, Mark, you said to me that you wanted to lead out with the Red Flag.
There's a reason why I want to sing it. And when I was growing up, there was a woman called Joan Minto who at the end of every meeting, she always stood up and sang the Red Flag. And I've sang it for two people. One was Joan, she died this year. And I sang it for my mum at her funeral. So I thought I'll bash it out on here. I love it when you sing it at the end of every meeting. So that was the reason why. And looking at the chat, it's for two women that I really, really thought unbelievably loads about, because they were really strong women in my community. So I'm going to knock this one out. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The people's flag is deepest red. It's shrouded of our martyred dead, and ere the limbs grow stiff and cold, their hearts' blood dyed in every fold. Then raise the scarlet standard high, beneath its folds we live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. It's waved above our infant might, when all ahead seemed dark as night. It's witnessed many a deed and vow, we mustn't change our colours now. Then raise the scarlet standard high, beneath its folds we live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. There we are. That's for that. Me mum and John Minteloff.
Well done. Thank you, Mark. That was really great. And we'll finish the Zoom now. I'll unmute everyone, and everyone can say goodbye, but probably for just about a minute.
I don't think I've got much to live up to, Rob.
I can't unmute all. Ask all to unmute. Right. Okay. Right. So there you go.
Oh, it's done.
Solidarity.
Hi,
Mark,
everybody.
Yeah.
Mark,
brilliant. Thank you, solidarity.
We can sing for
Jeremy.
It's our last call.
Crispin.
Wednesday, if it is. Merry Christmas.
Bye, Terry.
Happy holiday and everything to everybody.
Wednesday, are we?
Christmas,
everyone. Meeting on Wednesday, Crispin.
Solidarity, everyone.
Last one.
Great song, Rob. Got to get better.